I'm gonna do a quick reading of Repent Harlequin, Said the TikTok Man by Harlan Ellison. There are always those who ask, what is it all about? For those who need to ask, for those who need points sharply made, who need to know where it's at. This, the mass of men serve the state thus not as men mainly, but as machines. With their bodies they are the standing army and the militia, jailers, constables, vocecomercios, etc. In most cases there is no free exercise whatever of the judgment, or of the moral sense, but they put themselves on a level with wood and earth and stone, and wooden men can perhaps be manufactured that will serve the purpose as well. Such command no more respect than men of straw or a lump of dirt. They have the same sort of worth only as horse and dogs, yet such as these even are commonly esteemed good citizens. Others, as most legislators, politicians, lawyers, ministers, and office holders, serve the state chiefly with their heads, and, as they rarely make any moral distinctions, they are as likely to serve the devil without intending it as God. A very few, as heroes, patriots, martyrs, reformers in the great sense, and men, serve the state with their consciousness only, and so necessarily resist it for most of the part, and they are commonly treated as enemies by it. That is Henry David Thoreau, Civil Disobedience. That is the heart of it. Now begin in the middle, and later learn the beginning. The end will take care of itself. But because it was the very world it was, the very world they had allowed it to become, for months his activities did not come to the alarmed attention of the ones who kept the machine functioning smoothly, the ones who poured the very best butter over the cams, the mainsprings of the culture. Not only until it had become obvious that somehow, some way, he had become a notoriety, a celebrity, perhaps even a hero for what officialdom inexplicably tagged. An emotionally disturbed segment of the populace did they turn it over the TikTok man and his legal machinery. But by then, because it was the very world it is now, and they had no way to predict, he would happen possibly a strain of disease long defunct, now suddenly reborn in a system where immunity had been forgotten, had lapsed. He had been allowed to become too real. Now he had form and substance. He had become a personality, something they had filtered out of the system many decades ago. But there it was, and here he was, a very definitely imposing personality. In certain circles, middle-class circles, it was thought disgusting, vulgar, obstination, anarchist, shameful. In others, there was only sniggering, those strata where thought is subjugated to form and ritual, niceties, proprieties. But down below, where the people always needed their saints and sinners, their bread and circuses, their heroes and villains, he was considered a Bolivar, a Napoleon, a Robin Hood, a Dick Bong, Ace Faces, a Jesus, a Jomo Kenyatta. And at the top where, like socially attuned shipwreck Kellys, even tremor and vibration threatens to dislodge the wealthy, powerful, entitled from their flagpoles, was considered a menace, a heretic, a rebel, a disgrace, a peril. He was known down the line to the very heart-meat core, but the important reaction were high above and far below. At the very top, at the very bottom. So his file was turned over, along with his time card and his cardio plate, to the office of the TikTok man. The TikTok man, very much over 6 feet tall, often silent, a soft purring man when things went time-wise. The TikTok man. Even in the cubicles of hierarchy, where fear was generated, seldom suffered, he was called the TikTok man. But no one called him that to his mask. You don't call a man a hated name, not when that man behind his mask is capable of revoking the minutes, the hours, the days and nights, the years of your life. He was called the master timekeeper to his face, his mask. It was safer that way. That is what he is, said the TikTok man with genuine softness, but not who he is. This time card I'm holding in my left hand has a name on it. But it is the name of what he is, not who he is. The cardio plate here in my right hand is also named, but not who named, merely what named. Before I can exercise proper revocation, I have to know who this what is. To his staff, all the ferrets, all the loggers, all the finks, all the comics, even the minis, he said, "Who is this harlequin?" He was not purring smoothly. Time-wise, it was a jangle. However, it was the longest single speech they had ever heard come out of the ticktockman. Heard him utter, at one time, the staff, the ferrets, the loggers, the finks, the convicts, but not the minis, who usually weren't around to know in any case, but even they scared to find out. Who is the harlequin? High above the third level of the city, he crouched on the humming aluminum frame platform of the airboat. Airboat indeed. And stared down at the neat Mondrian arrangement of the buildings. Somewhere nearby, he could hear the metronomic left-right-left of the 2:47 p.m. shift entering the Timken roller bearing plant in their sneakers. A minute later precisely, he heard the softer right-left-right of the 5 o'clock a.m. formation going home. An elfish grin spread across his tanned features, and his dimple appeared for a moment. Then, scratching at his thatch of auburn hair, he shrugged within his motley, as though girding himself for what came next, and, threw the joystick forward, bent into the wind as the airboat dropped. He skimmed over a sidewalk, purposely dropping a few feet to crease the tassels of the ladies of fashion, and inserting thumbs in large ears stuck out his tongue, rolled his eyes, and went wooga wooga wooga. It was a minor diversion. One pedestrian skittered and tumbled, sending parcels every which way. Another wet herself. A third keeled slantwise, and walk was stopped automatically. By the servitors still, she could be resuscitated. It was a minor diversion. And then he swirled away on a vagrant breeze, and he was gone. Oh. As he rounded the cornice of the Time Motion Study building, he saw the shift, just boarding the sidewalk. With practiced motion and an absolute concentration of movement, they sidestepped up onto the slow strip and, in a chorus of line reminiscent of a Bubsy Berkeley film in the 1930s, advanced across the strip, ostrich walking till they were lined up on the express strip. Once more, in anticipation, the elfin grin spread, and there was a tooth missing back there on the left side. He dipped, skimmed, and swooped over them, and then, scrunching about on the airboat, he released the holding pins that fastened shut the end of the homemade pouring troughs that kept his cargoes from dumping prematurely. And as he pulled the trough pins, the airboat slid over the factory workers, and $150,000 worth of jelly beans cascaded down on the express ship. Jelly beans, millions and billions of purples and yellows and greens and licorice and grapes and raspberry and mint, round, smooth, and crunchy outside and soft, mealy inside, and sugary and bouncing, jouncing, tumbling, clittering, clattering, skittering, fell on the heads and shoulders and hard hats of the carapaces of the Timken workers, tinkling on the sidewalk and bouncing away and rolling about underfoot and filling the sky on their way down, with all the colors of joy and childhood and holidays coming down in a steady rain, a solid wash, a torrent of color and sweetness out of the sky from above, an entering universe of sanity and metronomic order, with quite mad cuckoo newness, jelly beans. The shift workers howled and laughed and were pelted and broke ranks, and the jelly beans managed to work their way into the mechanisms of the sidewalks, for which there was a hideous scraping as the sound of a million fingernails rasped down 250,000 block boards, followed by a coughing and a sputtering, and then the sidewalks all stopped, and everyone was dumped this way and that way in a jigsaw of tumble. And still laughing and popping little jelly bean eggs of childish color into their mouth. It was a holiday, and a jollity, and an absolute insanity of a giggle, but the shift was delayed by 7 minutes. They did not get home for 7 minutes. The master's schedule was thrown off by a whole 7 minutes. Quotas were delayed by inoperative sidewalks for 7 minutes. He had tapped the first domino in the line, and one after another, like the others had fallen. The system had been 7 minutes worth of disrupted. It was a tiny matter, one hardly worthy of note, but in a society where the single driving force was order and unity and promptness and clock-like precision and attention to the clock, reverence of the gods of the passage of time, it was a disaster of major importance. So he was ordered to appear before the ticktockman, who was broadcast across every channel of the communications webs. He was ordered to be there at 7 on time, and they waited. But he didn't show up until almost 10:30, at which time he merely sang a little song about moonlight in a place no one had ever heard of called Vermont, and vanished again. But they'd all been waiting since 7, and it wrecked hell with their schedules, so the question remained, who is the harlequin? But the unasked question, more important of the two, was how did we get into this position where a laughing, irresponsible japer of a Jabberwocky and jive could disrupt our entire economic and cultural life with $150,000 worth of jelly beans? Jelly, for God's sake, this is madness. Where did he get the money to buy $150,000 worth of jelly beans? They knew it would have cost that much because they had a team of situation analysis pulled off on another assignment and rushed to the sidewalk scene to sweep and count every single each of the little candies and produce findings which disrupted their schedule and threw the entire branch at least a day behind jelly beans. Now, wait a second. Accounted for no one has manufactured jelly beans for over 100 years. Where did he get the jelly beans? There's another good question. More than likely, it will never be answered to your complete satisfaction, but then how many questions ever are? The middle you know. Here's the beginning, how it starts. A desk pad. Day for day, in turn each day, 9 open the mail, 9:45 appointment with planning commissions board, 10:30 discuss installation progress charts with JL, 11:45 pray for rain, 12 lunch, and so it goes on. Repeat. A desk pad, day for day. I'm sorry, Miss Grant, but the time for interviews was set at 2:30, and it's quite almost 5 now. I'm sorry you're late, but those are rules, and you'll have to wait till next year to submit application to this college again. And so it goes on. The 1010 local shops at Crefton, Galesville, Town St. Junction, Selby, and Farnhurst, but not at Indiana City, Lucas Vine, and Colton, except on Sundays. The 10:35 express stops at Galesville, Selby, and Indiana City except on Sunday and holy days, at which time it stops, and it goes on and on. I couldn't wait, Fred. I had to be here at Pierre Carton's by 3 o'clock, and you said I'd meet you under the clock terminal at 2:45, and you weren't there, so I had to go on. You're always late, Fred. If you had been there, we could have sewed it up together, but as it was, well, I took the order alone, and it goes on. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Adderley, in reference to your son Gerald's constant tardiness, I'm afraid we will have to suspend him from school unless some more reliable method can be instituted guaranteeing he will arrive in class on time. Granted, he is an exemplary student and his marks are high. His constant flouting of schedules at this school makes it impractical to maintain him in a system where the other children seem capable of getting where they are supposed to be on time, and so it goes on. You cannot vote unless you appear at 8:45. I don't care if the script is good. I need it Thursday. Checkout time is 2. You got here late. The job's taken. Sorry, your salary has been docked for 20 minutes. Time's lost. God, what time is it? I have got to run. And so it goes. And so it goes. And so it goes. And so it goes. Tick-tock, tick-tock. And one day we no longer let time serve us. We serve time and we are slaves to the clock. The schedule. Worshippers of the sun's passing, bound into a life predicted on restrictions because the system will not function if we don't keep the schedule tight. Until it becomes more than a minor inconvenience to be late, it becomes a sin, then a crime punishable by this is effective 15th of July, 2389, 12 o'clock midnight. The office of the master timekeeper will require all citizens to submit their time cards and cardio plates for processing in accordance with statute 557 SGH 999 governing the revocation of time per capita. All cardio plates will be keyed to the individual holder, and what they had done was devised a method of curtailing the amount of life a person could have. If he was 10 minutes late, he lost 10 minutes off his life. An hour was proportionally worth more revocation. If someone was constantly tardy, he might find himself on a Sunday night receiving a comic cue from the master timekeeper that his time had run out and he would be turned off at high noon on Monday. Please straighten your affairs, sir. And so, by this simple scientific expedient, utilizing a scientific process held dearly secret by the ticktockman's office, the system was maintained. It was the only expedient thing to do. It was, after all, patriotic. The schedule had to be met. After all, there was a war only, but wasn't there always? Now, this was really disgusting, the harlequin said. When pretty Alice showed him the wanted poster, disgusting and highly improbable. After all, this isn't a day of desperados. A wanted poster. You know, Alice noted, you speak with a great deal of inflection. I'm sorry, said the harlequin humbly. No need to be sorry. You're always saying, I'm sorry. You have such a massive guilt, Everett. It's really sorry, really sad. I am so sorry, he repeated, then pursed his lips. The dimples appearing momentarily, he hadn't wanted to say that at all. I have to go out again. I have to do something. Alice slammed her coffee bowl down on the counter. Oh, for God's sake, Everett, can't you stay home just one night? Must you always be out in that ghastly clown suit running around annoying people? He stopped and clapped the jester's hat onto his auburn thatch with a tiny tingling of bells. He rose his nose out of the coffee bowl to the tap and put it into the dryer for a moment. I have to go. She didn't answer. The fax box was purring, and she pulled out a timesheet, read it, threw it towards him on the counter. It's about you, of course. You're ridiculous. He read it quickly. It said the TikTok man was trying to locate him. He didn't care. He was going to be out late again at the door, dredging for an exit line. He hurled back petulantly. Well, you speak with inflection, too. Alice rolled her pretty eyes heavenward. You're ridiculous. The harlequin stalked out, slamming the door, which sided shut softly and locked itself. There was a gentle knock, and Alice got up with an exhalation of exasperated breath and opened the door. He stood. I'll be back at 10:30, okay? She pulled a rueful face. Why do you tell me that? Why? You know you'll be late. You know it. You're always late. So why do you tell me these dumb things? She closed the door. On the other side, the harlequin nodded to himself. She's right. She's always right. I'll be late. I'm always late. Why do I tell her these dumb things? He shrugged again and went off late once more. He had fired off the firecracker rocket that said, I will attend the 115th Annual International Medical Association invocation at 8 a.m. precisely. I do hope you'll be over there to join me. The word had burned in the sky, and of course the authorities were there, lying in wait for him. They assumed naturally that he would be late. He arrived 20 minutes early, while they were setting up the spiderwebs to trap and hold him in, and blowing a large bullhorn. He frightened and unnerved them so, their own moisturized encirclement web sucked close, and they were hauled up, kicking and shrieking, high above the amphitheater's floor. The harlequin laughed and apologized profusely. The physicians gathered in solemn conclave, roared with laughter, and accepted the harlequin's apologies with exaggerated bowing and posturing, and a merry time was had by all. But who thought the harlequin was a regular foufra in fancy pants? All, that is, but the authorities, who had been sent out by the office to the TikTok man, who hung there like so many dockside cargo hauled up above the floor of the amphitheater in the most unseemly fashion. In another part of the city, where the harlequin carried on his activities, totally unrelated in every way to what concerns here, save that to illustrate the TikTok man's power as an unimportant, a man named Marshall Dellently received his turn-off notice from the TikTok man's office. His wife received the notification from the gray-suited man who delivered it. It was the traditional look of sorrow plastered hideously across his face. She knew what it was, even without concealing it. It was a billet doux of immediate recognition to everyone. She grasped and held it as though it was a glass slide tinged with botulism, and prayed it was not for her. Let it be for Marsh, she thought brutally realistically, for one of the kids. But not for me. Please, dear God, not for me. And then she opened it, and it was for Marsh, and she was at the same time horrified and relieved. The next trooper in the line had caught the bullet. Marshall, she screamed. Marshall, termination, Marshall. Oh, my God, Marshall, what do I do? What do I do? What do we do, Marshall? And in their home that night was the sound of tearing paper and fear, and the stink of madness went up in the flue, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing they could do about it. But Marshall Dellently tried to run, and early the next day, when turn-off time came, he was deep in the forest, 200 miles away. The office of the TikTok man blinked his cardioplate. Marshall Dellently keeled over. His heart stopped, and the blood dried up on its way to his brain, and he was dead, and that's all. The shopping level of the city was thronged with the Thursday colors of the buyers. Women in canary yellow chitons and men in pseudo-Tylorian outfits that were jade and leather hand and fit very tightly save for the balloon pants. When the harlequin appeared on the still being constructed shell of the new efficiency shopping centers. No, I'm sorry, I apologize. Shopping center. His bullhorn to his elfishly laughing lips, everyone pointed and stared, and he braided him. Why let them order you about? Why let them tell you to hurry and scurry like ants or maggots? Take your time, saunter a while, enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the breeze. Let life carry you at your own pace. Don't be slaves of time. It's hell of a way to die, slowly by degrees. Down with the TikTok man. Who's the nut? Most of the shoppers wanted to know. Who's the nut? Oh, I'm gonna be late. I gotta run. And the construction gang on the shopping center received an urgent order from the office of the master timekeeper that the dangerous criminal known as the harlequin was atop their spire, and their aid was urgently needed in apprehending him. The work crew said no, they would lose time on their construction schedule, but the TikTok man managed to pull the proper threads of governmental webbing, and they were told to cease work and catch that nitwit up there on the spy with the bullhorn. So a dozen and more burly workers began climbing into the construction platform, releasing the A-grav plats and rising towards the harlequin. After the debacle, in which through the harlequin's attention to personal safety no one was seriously injured, the workers tried to reassemble and assault him again, but it was too late. He had vanished. It had attracted quite a crowd, however, and the shopping cycle was thrown off by hours, simply hours. The purchasing needs of the system were therefore falling behind, and so measures were taken to accelerate the cycle for the rest of the day, but it got bogged down and sped it up, and they were told too many float values and not nearly enough wegglers, which meant the Popley ratio was off, which made it necessary to rush cases and cases of spoiling smash out of stores that usually needed a case only every 3 or 4 hours. Shipments were bollocksed and the transshipments were misrouted, and in the end, even the Swizzle Skid Industries felt it. "Don't come back till you have him," the ticktockman said. Very quietly, very sincerely, extremely dangerously, they used dogs. They used probes. They used cardioplate cross-offs. They used keepers. They used bribery. They used stikites. They were intimidated. They used torment. They tormented him and tortured him and used finks and cops and search and seizure. They used phaleron. They used batterment and sensitive. They used fingerprints, the Bertillon. They used cunning, the guile. They used treachery. They used Raoul Mitgong, but he didn't help much. They used applied physics. They used the techniques of criminology, and what the hell, they caught him. After all, his name was Everett C. Marm, and he wasn't too much to begin with, except for a man who had no sense of time. "Repent, harlequin," said the ticktockman. "Get stuffed," the harlequin replied, sneering. "You've been late a total of 63 years, 5 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, 12 hours, 41 minutes, 59 seconds, 0.03611 microseconds. You've used up everything you can. I'm going to turn you off. Scare someone else. I'd rather be dead than live in a dumb world with a boogeyman like you. It's my job. You're full of it. You're a tyrant. You have no right to order people around and kill them if they show up late. You can't adjust. You can't fit in. Unstrap me and I'll fit my fist in your mouth. You are a nonconformist. That didn't used to be a felony. It is now. Live in the world around you. I hate it. It's a terrible world. Not everyone thinks so. Most people enjoy order. I don't. And most people I know don't. That's not true. How do you think we caught you? I'm not interested. A girl named Pretty Alice told us who you were. That's a lie. It's true. You unnerve her. She wants you to belong. She wants to conform. I'm going to turn you off. Then do it already and stop arguing with me. I'm going to turn you off. You're an idiot. Repent, harlequin, said the ticktockman. Get stuffed. So they sent him to Conventry, and in Conventry they worked him over. It was just like what they did to Winston Smith in 1984, which was a book none of them knew about, but the techniques are really quite ancient, and so they did it to Everett C. Marne. And one day, quite a long time later, the harlequin appeared on the communications web, appearing elfish and dimpled and bright-eyed, not at all brainwashed, and he said he had been wrong, and that it was a good world, a very good thing indeed to belong, and be right on time, and hip-ho, and away we go, and everyone stared at him up on that public screen that covered an entire city block, and they said to themselves, well, you see, he was just a nut after all, and if that's the way the system is run, then let's do it the way, because it doesn't pay to fight City Hall. In this case, the ticktockman. So Everett C. Marne was destroyed. It was a loss because of what Thoreau said afterward, but you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, and in every revolution a few die that shouldn't. But they have to, because it's the way of what happens, and if you only make a little change, then it seems to be worthwhile. Or to make a point of lucidity. Excuse me, sir, I don't know, but you were 3 minutes late. The schedule's a little bit off, he grinned sheepishly. That's ridiculous, murmured the ticktockman. Check your watch. And then the ticktockman was turned off. Remember, guys, it's not worth it. Conform.